Thanks for clicking on Wayne.com for this edition of Inside the Zone. Blake Siebing from the News Sentinel, as always, joining us on a lovely Monday. We got plenty of hockey to talk about. Komets played 4 last week. Also, Chuck Bailey from the Komets sent out his awards ballots.
Dun, dun, dun.
We still got 2 weeks before it's all said and done, but we're going to talk about those, have Blake break down.
They were pretty easy this year, I felt.
Some of them were, some of them weren't. We'll have you break it all down coming up in a second. But first, your impression this past week.
Speaking of breaking it all down.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of good. There was some bad.
I didn't see much good.
What? They do. Well, there are only 7 games left. That's kind of a good thing.
Yeah, that is a very good thing.
So they got 4 out of the way if you want to look at the bright side there. But let's take a look at some of the wins. 6-3 against Norfolk on Wednesday. 1-0 against Cincinnati. And then, Florida was really good for about 20 minutes, up 4-0 after 1, and then the wheels kind of fell off the bus.
I think the big thing, it's been 2 months now. We haven't seen them play a full game. Even those games when they were coming back in February, they're always down 2 goals, and then they would come back. It's like, put a hurting on somebody, let's go. Play the full 60 just a couple times and get things rolling with some consistency. And that's really never happened. It just has not happened. That's why I said in today's column, this has been coming for weeks. There's been little things that they're not doing well, that they haven't been doing well for weeks. And this is what happens when you play a good team. Florida's a very good team. They've got 9 guys out of the lineup with injuries, but they're still a first-place team in their division.
One of the not-so-little things is the return of Kyle Thomas to Fort Wayne. Obviously, he goes away for a while. He comes back. He's still the team's leading goal scorer. So what does Kyle's return mean, and what does it mean that he does get a couple of weeks to work himself back into what the Komets are doing? It has to be a positive.
I think it's positive, and I think it's a positive for Kyle because he went up there. He got, when you always go up, you're never going to be regular minute guy. Mm-hmm. You're going to get a shift here or there.
10th forward guy.
Yeah, if that. Because they have 4 lines anyway, but they don't play the 4th line all the time either. They don't just roll lines often. So your confidence has got to take a hit. And then you come down and you're like, man, my dream is over. I may not get another chance to move up ever. He's 28, Mm-hmm. They're looking for 23, 24, And you got to deal with that somehow mentally. You may have just lost your dream of ever going to the NHL. And I still think Kyle could move up and do really well, but that's a hard thing to overcome, something you've been dreaming for your whole life, and it might be gone. So, and then your confidence is down, and it's hard getting that back, getting your timing back when you haven't played a regular shift, and now you're playing all the time with the Komets. You're playing 30 minutes a night, after playing 3 or 4 maybe at the AHL level. So you got to get your conditioning back. You got to get your timing back. You got to get your hands back. You got all that stuff going through your head too. And the team needs you. They really need you to step up because they've been struggling to score goals, and you got all that to deal with.
So a lot of pressure, but at least he's got a couple weeks to work himself back into it before the playoffs do begin.
And you got new line mates too, pretty much. They've been shifting lines and trying different things too. So you got to adjust to that.
One of the big things that happened this past weekend was Saturday night. You saw the 504 banner raised at the Coliseum to honor Al Sims.
How cool was that Jordan got to come off the Cincinnati bench to be a part of it?
That was cool. Obviously, Tyler, who played a little bit of a goalie for the Komets, was there as well. So the whole fam, his wife as well. What was your takeaway from Al, and how do you think he perceived it? Obviously, a great honor.
Yeah, it meant a lot to him. Al was getting misty-eyed. I don't think there was any doubt about that. It really meant something to him. Think about it. If you're a pro hockey player at the level he played at, you don't have a home. Fort Wayne has become home for those folks. Jordan was born here. Tyler kind of grew up here. This is where they've lived more than anybody else except for Toronto in the summers. So this is kind of home, and I think this just cemented that for them.
When you take a look at the Western Conference standings, we talked about it, seems like every week, but for the last month, especially after the All-Star break, you were saying, hey, here's a reachable, attainable goal for the Komets.
Would have been a good goal.
Is to finish second in the Western Conference. They're pretty well locked into that 4th spot. Maybe even if things go badly, could slide to the 5th spot. The 3rd spot's a little tough to get to. Allen, 92 points. The Komets, 86, although Allen does have a game in hand. How do you approach that? Because we did talk about, man, second place was reachable. Now you're talking fourth, fifth, third is best case scenario.
Well, you can't. You can't think about it. I mean, it's over. And there's nothing you can do about it, really. I mean, to me, the final 2 weeks here is you got to work on that road record. You've got to get some road wins just to get some confidence going. I mean, Sunday's game in Toledo is huge, but it's the 4th and 5 nights again. They've got 3 road games this weekend. They need to go for them. I mean, really go nuts and play disciplined, smart hockey and see if you can put that together on the road and build a little bit of momentum on the road. Because you're not going to have home ice now. You'll have it in the first round, but you're not going to have it in the second round or the third round or the finals, provided you were able to get there, you know.
Yeah, you mentioned how the Komets have had a tough road to hoe when they are on the road to hoe, I guess.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think it's 7 out of the last 8 games. They lost by 1 goal on the road, and the other one was a 2-goal game with an empty netter. I mean, they've got 19 losses on the road, and 14 have been by 1 goal. That doesn't count the empty netters. You know, it's remarkable how close they are, and it's not just one thing that's killing them. It's not just the penalty kill or taking penalties. It's a little bit of everything that's hurting them.
So Wednesday, you've got Alaska here. That's the only home game of the week. Then you've got Friday at Cincinnati, Saturday at Indy, Sunday at Toledo. When you take a look at Wednesday's game, Alaska's jockeying for playoff position. Cincinnati's trying to get in it. Toledo's trying to stay number 1. I mean,
well, they are, yeah.
They will be, but there are a lot of playoff implications with all their teams. So there's not, other than Indy, there's not really a game where you think, oh, there's nothing on the line for the opposing team.
And Indy's been playing hard lately.
And they're all at home. So what going into this week is your focus if you're Gary Graham and the Komets, knowing you got 4 and 5, 3 road games, and playoff implications for almost everybody involved?
Well, they've done a great job this week of cutting back on the penalties finally. They really did. They did a tremendous job there. I guess you got to play 60. You've got to play 60. And you got to do it in a couple games in a row. I mean, let's face it, this team has enough talent that if they play 60, they can beat anybody. I mean, they could go all the way. If they don't play 60, they could get beat in the first round. I think that's what kind of Sunday showed. And Friday night in Quad City, I think that's what that showed you, is that if they don't, anybody can. Not anybody, but a lot of teams can beat them, and all the playoff teams can probably beat them.
All right, so I dropped this on the floor earlier.
Da-dum-bum.
If there's any question that we don't edit things, there you go right there. Let's talk about these end-of-the-season player awards. You said it's pretty cut and dried.
Yeah.
At least you feel it is.
Except for the first one.
More so, that's where we're going to start. Knob Brick Award for the Stonewall defensive forward, the David Huckalow Award, if you will.
I think you got a couple choices, maybe 3. You got Gabriel Desjardins. He's been great that way. I got Jamie Shaftsma there. I think you got Kyle Thomas. You could be considered there, but I put down Desjardins.
Okay. So that was the toughest one in your eye.
That's the toughest one, I think.
Unsung Hero Award.
That's easy. It's a no-brainer, slam dunk, should be unanimous. That's Garrett Bardis, without a doubt.
Really?
Not even close. A guy who didn't even make the roster out of training camp, and he's come in and won, 19, 20 games.
Right. He's 1A or 1B as far as your goalie goes, depending on how you stack it up for the postseason.
Yeah.
He has been pretty fantastic. Who else would you even consider?
I wouldn't. I mean, it's that slam dunk.
It's that black and white. That Garrett
I said
Bardis.
that in February. It's done.
All right. Komets Defenseman of the Year Award.
That's got to be Cody.
Cody Salt.
Cody has.
That's a guy that's really improved.
He just has had amazing statistics this year. When even wearing the mask, he's been one of their best defensemen. I would also consider Curtis Leonard and Dan Milan, and Jason Binkley's. Well, we'll get to him.
Okay. Rookie of the Year. I think this one's a slam dunk.
Yeah, that's Mike Cazzola.
And nobody has been as effective offensively, especially rookie. Nobody's had the impact really that Cazzola has had. Done it on special
And I
teams
remember
as
at the
well.
preseason, somebody said he would be the player to watch all year. I can't remember who that was.
Was that me?
No.
Oh. No, it wasn't. Mike Cazzola, pretty darn good. Komets Most Improved Player Award. I think there's you could approach this in a couple of different
Yes,
ways.
you could.
How do you see it?
That's Jason Binkley.
Okay.
Here's a guy that you're like, they kept him out of training camp, and I think next year he could be in the running for Defenseman of the Year for the league because
Really?
he's improved that much. If he starts next year at where he finishes this season and keeps improving, anything's possible. I would also consider Kyle again.
That's okay.
That's
where I was
really
going.
would. And, look at all the guys who've improved. Look at Curtis. Look at all the. There's like 10 guys who've had career best years again. It's amazing how that happens every year with Gary.
Well, I know he says this is how Chuck describes it: for the player showing the most improvement in his game from the beginning of the season to the end.
Mm-hmm.
To me,
it could be Cody too.
The way I looked at it, though, I was thinking Kyle Thomas, because if you looked at the improvement he made from last season or from other times we've seen him in a Komet sweater, till this season, that improvement has been extremely impressive.
I know, but I'm going Binks.
Binks is your guy. The True Komet Award, player that best exemplifies team spirit and positive attitude on and off the ice. I think there are a lot of good guys on this team that you
There
can
really
pick from.
are. I mean, there's a lot of candidates for that.
I know who I have in my head.
I'm going with Kyle.
Okay. I was going to go Mbach.
You could. I mean, Mbach has won it a couple times. I like to spread it around too a little bit.
Equal opportunity.
Yeah, and I just feel like Kyle needs to be rewarded for his efforts this year. It's been very, very consistent, and he's just every night he's usually the hardest working guy out there.
Well, that brings us to the Mr. Hustle Award, which used to be the Kaylee Schrock tribute. How do you see it breaking down this year? Who's the guy you think is a Mr. Hustle?
I think it's going to be Kyle, but I could also see Desjardins being included. I could see Cody being considered for that. I could see Dan Milan being considered for that too. I mean, that guy has had a tremendous year defensively. I mean, he does a lot of little things that most people don't notice that really make a big impact.
Really under the radar guy that they've relied upon pretty much.
I mean, he's played heavy minutes with Bobby getting hurt and with Cody getting hurt and Webb's getting hurt a couple times. I mean, Milan and Leonard played heavy minutes this year.
And I know this isn't necessarily on the sheet, but MVP. Who's your MVP? Because I think there's a number of guys you can pick from. Had Nagel not been hurt all the year. He's been good when he's been back. Sidlowski's been up for a while.
There's a lot of guys.
Kazola, Kyle,
either. Cody. I mean, Cody played very well. You could say Cody or Kyle or Sid.
Bartis, too.
Bartis, exactly. I don't know. I could see a co-win this year.
Really?
I could see a Sid and Kyle splitting it this year.
I think that's pretty fair.
I do, too. I mean, the fact that Kyle left and got called up and played 12 games, missed 14 games with the Komets, and he came back and he was still your leading goal scorer, and he was second in points still. I mean, come on. That shows you how phenomenal he's been.
It's been a fantastic year for Kyle. And really, again, you're right. It's either really cut and dried or there's a lot of guys that you can, there's a lot of gray area whether you're handing out these awards or not to who you're going to select. So
I mean, it's kind of been that year, though. I mean, they've been fantastic at home. Despite yesterday, 25-6-1 at home is remarkable. I mean, that is incredible. They wanted to come into this season and be harder to play against at home. Well, they checked that one off pretty well.
All right. Well, obviously, 7 games left. They want to get ready and geared up for the postseason. 4 important games this week. We'll see how it all plays out next week on Inside the Zone. But for Blake, I'm Glenn. We'll see you next Monday.